Hey, what's up guys, it's DarkArmedDuelist, and today we're doing a 6 Samurai deck profile. So I'm really excited to do this for you guys because this deck is an extremely powerful combo deck that can make some absolutely incredible boards. With this particular build, you can even hand loop your opponent, which is absolutely amazing. So without further ado guys, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell there so you can become part of the notification squad, and definitely check out the Patreon down in the description below for all those awesome rewards. Like getting your name description in a single video, getting assigned cards in the mail, and even getting to request a deck profile every single month to your patron. So without further ado, let's get straight on into this. So first off, we're going to be playing 3 copies of Kizan. Kizan is one of those powerful cards in the entire deck, and it's just an absolutely crazy card that if you control a 6 Samurai monster with a different name, you can special summon this card from your hand, which is amazing to be able to loop through this card over and over again with your copy of Gateway. We then play 2 copies of Kizaru. Kizaru is definitely a 2-of in the deck. It's not a card you always want to see in your hand, but it's a really great card to have in your deck, because when this card is special summoned, you can add from your deck to your hand 1 6 Samurai monster with a different attribute from every monster that you control, which is a really good effect to be able to do because it gets you the exact 6 Samurai monster that you need. We then play just 2 copies of Shinai. Shinai is really good as a 2 in the deck to be able to loop with your copy of Mizuho, but this card is a good 2 because you control a copy of Mizuho, you can special summon this card from your hand, and if this card on the field is tributed, you get to target a 6 Samurai monster in your graveyard and add it back to your hand, except another copy of this card. We then play 2 copies of Mizuho. Mizuho is really good as a 2-of in the deck that has a great ability. If you control a copy of Shinai, you can special summon this card from your hand, and once per turn, you can treat another face-up 6 Samurai monster and then target 1 card on the field and destroy that target, which is a really good effect to be able to use. We then play 3 copies of Kaigeki. Kaigeki is really an amazing 3-of in this deck because this card just helps you out so much, because when this card is normal summon, you can special summon 1 level 4 or lower 6 Samurai monster from your hand, essentially giving you a link 2 for a normal summon, which is just really amazing. It also is really while you control a face-up 6 Samurai monster with a different name, it gains 1500 attack points going to 1700, which is a pretty good effect. We then play 2 copies of Fuma because it's a tuna. This card is really good in the deck as a 2-of because it is a tuner monster, and it does make it really easy to help you synchro summon into some really powerful cards. We then play a single of Hatsumi. Hatsumi is a good 1-of. You only need a single copy of this card. It lets you banish 2 6 Samurai monsters from your graveyard and or face up from your field, and then target a 6 Samurai monster in your graveyard, except another copy of this card, and special summon it, which is a great effect to be able to use with this card just to instantly get one of your 6 Samurais back on the field. We then play a single copy of Legendary Secret of the 6 Samurai. I feel like 1 is totally fine in the deck. This card is an awesome extender in the deck, but 1 is just fine. It has the ability that when you normally special summon a secret 6 Samurai monster, except during the damage step, you can special summon this card from your hand, and you can only select this card once per turn, and once per turn you can banish a level 4 or lower 6 Samurai monster from your graveyard until the end of this turn. This card's attribute, level, attack, and defense become the same as that banished monster, which is great to help you level modulate to get the exact level that you need. It's just a really great extender in the deck. We then play a single copy of Grandmaster. I feel like 1 Grandmaster is totally fine for this build. This card is a great extender as well. You can only control 1 of it, and if you control a 6 Samurai monster, you can special summon this card from your hand, which is just a really good effect just to get it on your side of the field. We then play a single copy of Great Shogun Shien. This card is amazing. I love this card as a 1-of in the deck. It's very easy to get to in this build, and it's just a really good card that if you control 2 or more 6 Samurai monsters, you can special summon this card from your hand, and your opponent can only activate 1 spell or trap card each turn, which is a great effect to be able to use, not counting the ones that get negated. When this card is just amazing to be able to basically lock down your opponent and just establish a really powerful field. We then play a single copy of Fire Flint Lady. Fire Flint Lady is just a good extender in the deck that if you control a warrior monster, you can special summon this card from your hand, which is just a great effect to be able to use with this card just to get it on your side of the field so you can link summon into some really powerful cards. So that's it for the monsters, guys. Let's get into the spells. So for the spells, we're going to start with a single copy of Rhoda. Rhoda is really important in the deck as a 1-of because we are playing a warrior deck. So this card can search out just about everything in the deck except for our level 4 or higher monsters. For example, our copies of our Grandmaster and Shogun Shien cannot be searched with this card, but everything else from Kizan to Kizaru can be searched with this card, which is just really good. We then play a single copy of Monster Reborn. This card is just a good extender in the deck to be able to bring back a monster from the graveyard so we can keep climbing into some really powerful cards. Play a single copy of World Legacy Succession. We do play a lot of Link monsters in the extract, so this card is great to be able to bring back a monster from the graveyard to the zone that monster points to, because usually you will have a Link monster on the field, which this card is just amazing at counting as an additional copy of Monster Reborn. We then play a single copy of Instant Fusion. Instant Fusion is great because you can put Millenniumize Restrict on your side of the field, which kind of counts like a Call by the Grave because it can negate hand traps, which is really good. We then play a single copy of Called by the Grave. Called by the Grave is insane as a 1-of in the deck because it just helps you prevent from getting hand trapped while you're trying to hand loop your opponent. And it's a really awesome card in the deck to be able to combo with Instant Fusion because Instant Fusion can summon out Millenniumize and give you a negate, and Call by can stop hand traps as well, so it's kind of sort of like we have 2 Call by. We then play a single copy of Gateway of the Six. This card is the entire deck. You have to get to this card. It's absolutely nuts. This is how you loop through your cards all the time. It's currently at 1, but it's still amazing that each time a 6 Samurai monster is normal or special summon, you place 2 counters on this card, and you can remove 2 counters from your side of the field to activate one of these effects, and depending on how many counters you remove depends on the effects that you get. If you remove 2 counters, then you can target a 6 Samurai monster or Shien effect monster, and the target gains 5 in attack. We're not activating that effect. If you remove 4 counters, you can add a 6 Samurai monster from your deck or graveyard to your hand, which is the effect we're always using on this card. And if you use 6 counters, you can target a Shien monster in your graveyard and special summon that target. That is very rare that we activate that. Usually we're using the 4 counter effect to be able to loop through our copies of Kizaru and Kizan over and over and over again to be able to just get it back on our side of the field over and over again with a copy of Kizan to be able to special summon it, add it back to hand, special summon it, add it back to hand, which is just amazing because every time you add a copy of Kizan back to hand, you're essentially only paying 2 counters because you're immediately going to summon it to your side of the field and then basically just use its effect again, which is amazing. And there's plenty of cards in this deck that will actually hold counters on them, so it'll actually generate up to 4 counters every time you summon it, so you can loop over and over and over again, which is just insane. We then play just a single copy of Temple of the Six. This card is just a good 1-of in the deck because it can hold counters and it generates a counter every single time you summon a 6 Samurai monster, which is amazing. And it also has a great effect that monsters your opponent control lose 100 attack for each counter on this card, which is a crazy powerful effect to be able to use with this card. We then play 3 copies of Shien's Dojo. This card is also a counter bank, which is amazing because it has the ability each time a 6 Samurai monster is normal or special summon, you place a counter on this card, and then you can also send this card to the graveyard and then special summon a 6 Samurai monster or a Shien monster from your main deck whose level is less than or equal to the number of Bushido counters on this card, which is an amazing effect to be able to use because you have so many ways to be able to just put the counters on cards. Being able to just summon out a 6 Samurai, put 2 on this, 1 on this, and 1 on this gives you 4 counters and basically gives you free adds from graveyard, so you can just keep searching and keep adding, which is just amazing. We then play 3 copies of 6 Samurai United. This is also a counter bank, but this card can only hold 2 counters, which is a little bit of a downside. But this card is still great because it's a Pot of Greed, because when it has 2 counters on it, you can send it to the graveyard and then draw 2, which is just insane. You can send it when it just has 1 counter, but you never are going to do that. You're always going to get 2 counters on this card to be able to draw 2 for more combo pieces, so this card is a definite 3-of in the deck. We then play 3 copies of Shien's Smoke Signal. Smoke Signal is great because this card lets you add a level 3 or lower 6 Samurai monster from your deck to your hand, which can be Shinai, Mizuho, Fuma, any of those cards you can add from your deck to your hand, which is just really good, and that this card is just such a powerful searcher for the deck. We then play, for our equip spells, we're going to be playing a single copy of Durandal. Durandal is great because you can add Fire Warrior monsters off this card's effect, such as your copy of Mizuho or your copy of Fire Flint Lady, making this card a great card for the deck. Also, all of your equip spells are food for your copy of Awalt, so it's really good in the deck. We then play a single copy of De Fleur. De Fleur is basically a premature burial, which is just really insane. This card is insane because it lets you activate the effect to be able to target a level 2 or lower monster in your graveyard and special summon it but negate its effects. also equipped with this card, and it gains 700 attack while it's equipped with this card, which is just insane because this card basically has the ability to bring back your copy of Fuma or Fire Flint Lady from your graveyard back to your side of the field, and also it has a great effect that if this card is sent to the graveyard from the spell and trap card zone while it's equipped to a monster, you can equip it to a synchro monster that you control instead, giving it that 700 attack point boost, which is really cool. Essentially, when the sword falls, a synchro monster picks it up, which is really good. We then play a single copy of Living Fossil. Living Fossil is great as a 1-of in the deck because this card is awesome to be able to use as basically an additional copy of Monster Reborn, and it's just a really good 1-of in the deck. And then playing a single copy of DDR. DDR is really helpful because it lets you discard a card and then target one of your banished monsters and special in an attack position and equip it with this card, which can be extremely helpful in the deck. We then play a single copy of Divine Sword Phoenix Blade. Phoenix Blade is an amazing card in the deck just to be able to send to the graveyard off your copy of Awalt. You can recover this card extremely easily by just banishing any 2 warrior monsters from the graveyard. Lets you add this card back to hand, which is just absolutely crazy. So that's it for the deck, guys. Let's get into the extra deck. So for the extra deck, we're going to start off with a single copy of Xian. Xian is amazing as a 1-of in the deck. This card is a walking spell trap negate, which is why this card is so good. It's very easy to make in this deck just by using a copy of a level 4 monster plus a copy of Fuma, and it's a really awesome card to be able to put on your side of the field. We then play a single copy of Baron de Fleur. Baron de Fleur is amazing in this deck to be able to just pop cards on the field and have as a walking negate. We then play 2 copies of Trishula. Trishula is insane in this deck, just to be able to loop through your copies of Trishula and basically eat your opponent's hand, because you can loop through Trishula multiple times in a single turn to be able to just deal with your opponent's hand. It's absolutely crazy this card is a more than 1, but it's a really cool card in this deck, because when this card is synchro summoned, you can activate this effect to banish 1 card each from your opponent's field, graveyard, and their hand, and it's a random card from their hand, which is amazing to be able to do because it basically just gets rid of cards out of your opponent's hand. You can just get 1 card banished, which is amazing because if you put this card on the field on your first turn, you can just get the card out of the opponent's hand, which is just a really powerful effect to be able to use in this deck, especially being able to loop this card and be able to loop it like 4 times, plus a copy of our Phantom Fortress will actually deal with your opponent's entire hand, and they will start with 1 card in their hand because it's a card that they draw, which we have plenty of negates to deal with. We then play a single copy of Phantom Fortress. The reason we're playing this card is a 1-of because you can make this card extremely easily just using 2 copies of Trishula on your side of the field, and it's really good because you can once per turn detach a material on this card to activate one of these effects to banish 1 card that your opponent controls, banish a random card from your opponent's hand, which is the effect we usually use, banish 1 card from your opponent's graveyard, or banish the top card of your opponent's deck face up, which usually we're just ripping a card out of the opponent's hand. Once you make 2 copies of Trishula, you make this card, and then you can loop through more plays to be able to get this card into the graveyard, and your Trishulas back in the graveyard, recycle them, and then just remake them, which is a crazy thing to be able to do. We can play a single copy of Shadow of the Six Samurai Xian. This card is just basically an additional 6 Samurai in the deck to be able to generate counters. It's a really good 1-of in the deck. We then play a single copy of Daigusto Emerald. Daigusto Emerald is how we recycle our copies of Trishula, so we can do it again, which is crazy to be able to do, to be able to recycle 2 copies of Trishula and a copy of our Phantom Fortress back into the extra deck, and to be able to summon them out again through our 6 Samurai loops, which is amazing to be able to basically eat our opponent's entire hand. But this card is crazy because you target 3 monsters in your graveyard and shuffle them into the deck and then draw a card. So you're going to put back all 3 of these and then be able to draw a card. We then play a single copy of number 60. This card is amazing to help you OTK if you need to. It lets you draw 2, discard 1, be able to bring a monster back from the graveyard in defense position, or it has the ability to double the attack of a monster, which can be quite handy. We then play a single copy of Millennium Eyes Restrict. This is our instant fusion target. This card is just in the deck because it can eat negates, which is amazing because you put this card on your side of the field and can eat hand traps, which is amazing, and it's just a really awesome 1-of in the deck. We then play 2 copies of Yugioh. This is so we can dig into the deck to be able to get more combo pieces and just extend our plays. Plus, it's extremely generic to be able to put on our side of the field, and it lets us draw 4 and then put 3 back, which is really good to be able to dig for resources in this deck. It also gives us a free special summon from hand, which is just really good. We then play a single copy of Appaloosa. You usually end on this with 4 negates, which is insane. It's really good to be able to put on your side of the field. It's also very generic to be able to put on your side of the field. It's just a really awesome card. We then play a single copy of Isolde. Isolde is really good in this deck as a 1-of of, because you can send those equipped spells to the graveyard to be able to special summon a warrior monster to your side of the field. And also has an awesome effect that when this card is link summoned, you can add a warrior monster from your deck to your hand, but for the rest of the turn, you cannot normal summon or special summon monsters with that monster's name, nor activate that monster's effects, but it's fine because we're just basically going to thin the deck out with that card for our copy of Yugioh, which can be extremely helpful. We then play 2 copies of Battle Shogun. Battle Shogun is how we get to our copy of Gateway so fast. This card is amazing because if it's link summon, you can discard any card from your hand and then add 1 card from your deck to your hand that has the effect to place a Bushido counter on it, which is your copy of Gateway, which is amazing to be able to search Gateway with this card. It's just such a powerful card to be able to use. So that's it for the deck, guys. I hope you did enjoy. This deck is super fun to be able to play. If you guys have never played Six Samurai before, you should definitely give this deck a try because it's such a powerful deck. It's super fun to be able to play, just to be able to loop through your plays over and over again and just see if you can loop through your opponent's hand and get rid of all the cards that they have, which is actually quite easy to do with this deck. So anyways, guys, that's it for this one. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell there so you can become part of the notification squad, and we'll see you guys in the next video. See you later, guys.